I would like for you all to welcome Jess from Bolivar, Tennessee, and Tracy from Walnut, Mississippi. Yes.
Hey y'all, I'm an addict named Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Hang on, let me get situated here. I got too much stuff.
Put it up there. Put it up there.
So yeah, this is for the newcomer. Got a IP right here. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna have to talk a little bit louder. So yeah, like I said, y'all, I'm an addict named Jesse. Like I said, this is for the newcomer. And you know, y'all, I can only get up here and kind of share my experience, strength, and hope. You know, I don't speak for NA as a whole. I don't speak for the group or anyone else in it. You know, just myself. So, you know, it really, in my mind, y'all, this workshop here is not just, I know it's titled for the newcomer. This is really for everybody. You know, because if y'all are anything like me and you've been coming around for a while, I think a lot of us, it's kind of easy to forget what it was like when we were a newcomer, you know. And for me, it's refreshing. I love newcomer meetings or first step meetings. Those are some of my favorites because that's a reminder, you know. That reminds me of where I was at when I was a newcomer. And for me, y'all, I was not in a very good place when I first got here. You know, it took, you know, I was in and out in that whole revolving door. This last time, it took an outside issue, you know, to get me in is desperately, see, I'd had that gift of desperation. You know, I was at the point the pain had exceeded the pleasure. You know, it had not been fun. It was not fun, and not been fun for a long time. But as bad and as desperate as I was, my pride and my ego would not let me ask for help. So once again, it took an outside issue to get me in here. I had to be forced, in other words, you know. And when I first got here, y'all, I wanted something different. More than anything, I was sick and tired of the misery. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I wanted something different. I didn't know how to go about it, you know. That's all I knew for 20 plus years was out there running the streets. I didn't know how to do anything different, you know. So when I came in here, it was my predecessors. It was the ones that were here when I got here. It was them telling me they love me, hugging my neck, telling me to keep coming back, telling me, you know, that it gets better, and picking me up for meetings and rides and going out to get coffee and all that stuff we do, you know. And like I said, y'all, if it wasn't for those people, I don't know if I would have stayed, to be honest with you. You know, I was scared. I came in, I was completely broken, you know. Physically, I was emaciated. You know, I was maybe 135, 140 pounds soaking wet. You know, spiritually, I was bankrupt. Emotionally, I was completely dead inside. And like I said, it was not a good place. You know, it was just not a good place at all. So when I was a newcomer, like I said, it was my predecessors. It was those people that loved me until I learned how to love myself. That's a huge reason why I kept coming back, you know. Like I said, you know, and it says in that reading right there, we hear it before every meeting, it says the newcomer is the most important person in any meeting because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. See, I didn't know what that meant at first. I'd heard it time and time and time again, but I've got a clean date, y'all, of May 28, 2016, so I've been coming around for, you know, a little while, but I know what that means today. I know exactly what they're talking about today. And, you know, for me, it's kind of easy, and once again, this is just speaking for myself. You know, I've got a home group, and a lot of us home group, we're all in Bolivar, Tennessee. A lot of us we're thick. You know, we're pretty tight. And sometimes I will be ever so gently reminded by my beautiful wife, you know, we have some newcomers come in, and sometimes I just don't make a point to go over to that newcomer, you know. So I really, I try to be more mindful of that. We've got phone lists and all that kind of stuff because, once again, y'all, it's just a reminder of where I was at, you know, when I first came into rooms. And like I said, sometimes it's easy for me to kind of slip into that trap. You know, you go to your meetings and it's your same people that are there, you know, multiple nights a week and all that kind of stuff. So I do really make it a point to try to reach out to the newcomer, try to hug their neck, tell them keep coming back, all that good stuff. So I got some notes written down here. Y'all, I'm trying to, let's see. It talks here over on page 55 in the basic text. It says right here, it says a meeting a day for at least the first 90 days of recovery is a good idea. And it goes on to say, over down in here, in time, there's a few sentences in between, in time we can relax and enjoy the atmosphere of recovery. So, you know, for me, y'all, I think I probably did more than those 90 meetings in 90 days. I know I had to go away and do a little bit of time, you know, finally got out and had to go to transitional living, and there we had to do 6 meetings a week. And I bet for that first month or month and a half, I didn't have a job. So that's what I did. I was doing 2 or 3 meetings a day because I was scared. I was scared of what was going to happen. I knew right then that sitting by myself in that room at the halfway house, I was not in a very good neighborhood at all. So that's what I did. You know, we get out there, I got a food stamp card, a bus pass. And I'm going to tell you, I wore that bus out. I mean, I did. And I was doing whatever meeting I could find. At that point, it didn't really matter. I had done NA for a little bit, and I went back to, and I call it AA because it refers to, in our literature, as Alcoholics Anonymous. It don't say that other group, don't say them bunch of damn drunks. It's what it calls it, Alcoholics Anonymous. I did that for about 1.5 years, but there at first, y'all, I just did meetings, whatever 12-step recovery meeting I could find. That's where I was at. And I knew right then. So I'm originally from Nashville. This was in Jackson, Tennessee. My original plan, y'all, was to get done with what I needed to get done and go back. And as I got in here and started doing these meetings and started surrounding myself with people in recovery, you know, and my predecessors, like I was talking about, they told me to keep coming back. So I kept coming back. They said, get a network. So I did that. They said, okay, get a sponsor. I said, now work some steps. I started to realize, y'all, as I got into this thing and really started working the program, the steps and sponsorship and network and all that stuff, I knew that if I went back to Nashville, Middle Tennessee, I knew what was probably going to happen. See, out there, I knew the wrong people, places, and things. I knew where I didn't need to go. I knew who I didn't need to associate with. I knew all that shit. That's really what I gravitated towards when I first got out to Jackson. Out there, y'all, I finally found the right people. You know, I finally found the people wanting to do something that I wanted to do. You know, we were wanting to do similar things. But, you know, like I said, in that reading on page 55 or on page 56, it says, now we can relax and enjoy the atmosphere of recovery. That's where I'm at today, y'all. I mean, I used to be, at first, like I said, even though I wanted something different, you know, and all that kind of stuff, I basically went there to get my sheet signed. That's, you know, it was more of a chore than it was anything else. I was scared to do anything different. Today, I love my meetings. I mean, I do, and I can tell. My wife and I, we've got kind of a lot on our plate. You know, we've got 2 girls, we've got a baby on the way, we just bought a house, we've got animals, so it's, there's been a few weeks where I've only been able to make 1 or 0 meetings. And I can tell y'all, I can tell the difference. You know, I can definitely tell. Spiritually, that really affects me in a negative way if I don't get to do my meetings, you know, like I've been used to. And sometimes that happens. You know, we talk about balance a lot, and it's, you know, you got to kind of be able to adjust your schedule and do what you can on the fly, you know. So let's see here. I'm running out of stuff to talk about, y'all. I'm trying to take up some time. It's been 10 minutes. So I'm going to read something else too. This is over on page 58 right here. Let's see if I can find it. Where is it at? It says right here at the top in that first paragraph, it said, we find that by working the steps, communicating with our higher power, talking to our sponsors, and sharing with newcomers, we are able to grow spiritually. So, in that right there, sharing with newcomers, you know, once again, I think that's kind of what this program is all about. you know, is being able to share that experience, strength, and hope, because that's a two-way street right there. You know, maybe that newcomer will hear something, be able to relate, or something will click. Hey man, I kind of relate to what this guy's talking about. But once again, as someone that's been coming around for a while, it keeps that stuff fresh. You know, it keeps it right up here, sharing all that stuff. I know today, y'all, if I forget all that pain and misery and all that stuff I went through, if I ever forget where I come from, I'm destined to go back there. You know, and I definitely don't want to do that. So yeah, like I said, it is important. It's important to share that stuff. I don't know. I'm trying to kill some time. So y'all let me think on it. Let Tracy get up here, and I'll see if I can't find some more stuff.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
I tried to take as much time as I could.
I'm not standing at the podium. I'm Tracy, an addict.
Hey, Tracy.
I'm going to sit right here. I'm still a newcomer for probably the 10th time. I know about being a newcomer, but I remember how fearful I was every time I would relapse and walk back through those doors. You know, the fear of being judged, how people would look at me, and who are these people? And they're nothing like me anyway. I'm not like these folks, you know. It took me a lot of times to start realizing the similarities between us all, to start looking at the similarities between us all, and still today, I find myself looking for the differences. Bart reminded me about 10 minutes before I walked in here that I was doing that again, and so that tells me that, you know, I don't know nothing. I'm still learning too. And I'm sorry. So my first sponsor, well, all them other times I never got a sponsor. I never worked any steps. I would come in the rooms and fill the seat and listen to what people were saying, and half the time it never registered what they were saying. Somewhere along the way, I learned that I should get a sponsor, and I should attend regular meetings, and I should find a home group. And, you know, whenever I got sick enough that I knew something was going to have to change, those things clicked. You know, I know what I got to do this time, because if I don't, I'm just going to keep going through this cycle over and over and over again. And at that point, I didn't want to go through that cycle anymore. You know, I remember sitting on my bed the day I got arrested. That morning, I was sitting on my bed and I was in so much pain. I just cried out I didn't know what was there, because at that point I didn't believe in a God. You know, I was just like, you know what? I'm through with this. I'm done. Please help me. And I don't know, whatever it was heard me, because I went to jail that night, you know? So there's my help. And I didn't see it as help at the time. You know, I didn't see it as help at the time. It took me a little while. And I was like, you know what? That was God doing for me what I could not do for myself. You know, I asked for that, and I got it. And that still happens in my life today. You know, if I ask for something and it's something that's good for me, God hands me that, you know. And noticing those things is a huge thing, because I never did that before. I never noticed when God was doing something good in my life. And this program has given me that gift where I can see when something's good happening. That's coming from God. And so where was I? I think I lost my place before that. I don't remember where I was at.
Ask guys up, went to jail.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. I went to jail. And all the other different times I'd been here, I didn't, you know, do all the things that is suggested. And so this time when I was sitting in jail, I kept thinking, well, I'm going to get a sponsor this time. If I'm going to do it right, I'm going to do it right. And there were some ladies that brought an NA meeting into the jail this time. And I remember her telling me the things that it had done in her life. And I remember thinking to myself, I want that. You know, I really, really want that. I want the relationship with my kids. You know, I want to be a better person. I don't want to go back to who I was in those streets, because I was like, I've heard this phrase several times since I've been here this time, the low bottom addict. I was that, you know, I was the one that was doing the shit that I hated myself for doing. And so when that lady brought that NA meeting into that jail, I remember going back into my cell and sitting there and thinking, this is what's going to work for me this time. I've tried everything else. You know, I've tried church, I've tried switching dope, I've tried doing dope on the weekends, I've tried the liquid dope, I've tried just the green dope, you know, I've tried everything else, and this is the only thing that's going to work for me. I'm one of those addicts that I'm going to have Narcotics Anonymous. And I made a commitment to myself in that cell that day that I was going to really stick with Narcotics Anonymous this time. I wasn't going to bounce in and out. I wasn't going to warm a chair. I wasn't going to look for the differences. I was going to look for the similarities, and I have. And so I got my first sponsor. I asked like 12 ladies, you know, before I found my first sponsor. And I believe that was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself too. You know, I believe that God knew I needed a specific lady. And when I asked her and she said yes, I believe that connection was just what I needed, you know, at that time, because y'all, she taught me that it's okay to be wherever I'm at. I don't have to be where you're at or where he's at, or, you know, wherever I'm at, that's okay. And I can be okay in that space. And I had never felt that before, you know. I can be okay right here. And so she started loving me and teaching me to speak gently to myself, which is something I didn't know how to do. I was my worst critic, and I beat myself up for so many years. And so she started teaching me how to be kind to me. And I can be kind to me today because of that. And she pushed me to go to meetings, and, you know, when I didn't want to do step work, she told me you need to do it every night. And so I did. I went to outside meetings, you know, not just my home group meeting. I went to all the meetings in our area. Bart took me to a lot of them. Most of them. Thank you, Bart. But I got that network of ladies. I got the phone numbers. I started getting to know these ladies, and, you know, I seen something in each one of them that I wanted, and that has helped me stick around, because I realized that I can't do this by myself anymore, because by myself is lonely. And being a newcomer, you don't want to be lonely. So I still have fear. I'm sitting here fearful right now. But I trust that everything's going to be okay. And doing those extra meetings and being committed and starting to do service work, those things have helped me stay clean. You know, if I would have just came in the rooms and sat in a chair and listened and not participated, I would not be clean today. And, you know, this is the longest recovery I've ever had. I've had clean time before, but I was still miserable, you know. Today I have like real recovery, I feel like, because I can feel joy and peace today, where all those other years and those times before I never could just sit in my own self and have joy and peace. But I have that today, and it's because I'm working steps, I'm praying and meditating, I'm attending meetings regularly, I'm getting out of myself, I'm doing service work, I'm going around other addicts. And when I'm around other addicts, we share joy, we share pain too. But that helps, you know, when I can share pain with somebody else, that helps, because it kind of gives it somewhere else to go, where I don't have to hang on to it. I learned that this time in these rooms from other women. That's something too that I've never had before, was the ability to trust other women, and I've gained that this time because of my first sponsor. She helped me open up to some things I never thought I'd share with anybody on earth, you know, and then once I shared it with her, I was able to share it with another lady and with another lady, and come to find out, you know, we all have these same types of issues, us ladies. And so being able to trust other women was a big deal for me. And I love that I can do that today. And I can trust my mother today. I never trusted my mother. I couldn't stand that old lady, you know. But today I can trust my mother because of the ladies in Narcotics Anonymous. And that's a beautiful thing, man. Coming in here with the intent to change my life was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. You know, I came as a newcomer 8, 9, 10 times and never had the desire that I have today. And I'm so grateful for that. You know, I'm so grateful for this program that I get to come up here and tell y'all what my experience, strength, and hope has been like, you know. And I could have went to Thanksgiving in Alabama with my family this weekend, but I was asked to come here, and because I was asked, I felt like that was God putting me where I needed to be. Because if I would have went to have Thanksgiving with my family, y'all, it probably would have been an argument somewhere. I don't know. I believe I'm supposed to be right here. Right here. And so, for me, coming in this time, being a newcomer, I've just done what's suggested. And if what was suggested didn't work for me, I'd ask somebody else and see what they suggested, and I'd try that. I've kept an open mind. You know, I haven't just closed off and said, oh, that's not going to work for me. You know, I would actually try. And that's something new, too. You know, I've never been open-minded. It was always my way or the fucking highway. So today I can be open-minded and hear what other people have to say. And you know, even if it sounds dumb to me, some of the dumbest shit that people have said to me has actually helped me. So, and that's, I guess it's all a learning experience. It's all a spiral, you know. I might think I'm slipping back, but I'm just going back around. I love this program. I know I haven't taken up enough time. There was something in here that I was going to read, but let me see if I can find it. No, it's not on that side. Okay, recovery doesn't stop with just being clean. We abstain from all drugs. We came face to face with feelings that we have never coped with successfully. That is the biggest thing for me. Those feelings that I've never been able to cope with successfully. I used not to feel. And so being clean, I'm learning to feel these things and be okay no matter what. Like, say someone, I'm going to use my daughter for example. Y'all, my daughter came out as non-binary, so she wants me to call her them or they, and I'm struggling with that. And so I'm having feelings about that. But I have to respect the fact that she's open enough to bring that to me, you know, and she trusts me enough to say, hey, Mom, I feel better if you treat me this way. And even though I'm having feelings of confusion and you know, that's my daughter in my mind, I'm having to be okay with that and try my best to say they are my child instead of she is my daughter. You know, those are things that if I was using, she wouldn't have been able to tell me those things, you know. And that relationship would have been null and void because let me get some dope so I don't have to feel that. And you know, I can do that today because of this program. Like, I don't have to get reactive or judgmental or angry over something somebody else does. I can accept those people for who they are because I've got this program to work. And if I turn my eyes in and look at me, I can deal with what I need to deal with instead of putting it back on them. You know, it's not you that's making me feel this way. This is me. This is my feelings. You know, let me be responsible for me. This program is teaching me that. So, personally, I believe anybody, not just addicts, I believe anybody can benefit and change their life with the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. And because I believe that working these 12 steps and actually living these principles in these steps makes anybody a better person. Anybody. So how cool is it that we get to? You know, how cool is that? We get to be better people because of that. Thank y'all. I love y'all.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
I'm Tom, I'm an addict.
Tom.
We just, we'll open it up. I'll start it off. Thank you for sharing your stories on Newcomer. Yeah, I just think back when I was a newcomer, I started out in the other fellowship. And I wasn't just like a couple years out of college, man, so I treated it like a course. When I worked, and that was my sponsor, we met every week, and I worked the steps, and man, I had every book open, studying, looking this up, and I was like writing all this shit, and 18 months later, I relapsed. But I couldn't have told you what spiritual principle was behind this or that, or none of it's like, I just didn't grasp it, man. And this last time around, I stayed out for a little while, and I had to go to rehab several times, but when I got out this last time, I got a sponsor before I even got out of the rehab, and I got the literature again, and I knew I had to come to NA this time because, just not doing the liquid dope wasn't enough, so, I was so fucking scared though, man. I had such bad social anxiety that first day that I went to the meeting, I thought I was gonna like implode, I was shaking, I couldn't fucking handle it, but, the people were so loving and friendly, and it's just like so welcoming, and it's like they started giving me all these suggestions. It's like, get here early, stay late, you know how to make coffee, and they showed me how to make the coffee, and they wipe down the tables, and it's like that's the stuff I still do to this day. I've got 18 years clean, and when I go to my home group, it's like I get there early, I wipe down the tables, I make the coffee, just it's like a habit now. It's not something I even wouldn't be able to do, but the more important things, I guess, I got the phone numbers, and I went to the meetings every day, like I said, for 90 days. So the most I ever went, I think I went to 7 meetings in one day. I started like at 6 o'clock in the morning, and didn't stop till 10 o'clock that night, and my sponsor at the time was a real strict guy. We met at his house, and we did the steps, and he was disabled. He was in a wheelchair, so he had me doing all this extra shit, which is like cleaning out his attic and his fucking pool and shampooing his carpets, and I'm like, I didn't sign up for this bullshit, man. But,
Wax on, wax
I
off.
understood, he couldn't do it, but he pointed out to me, it's like, you got out of yourself, man, and I would call him all the time, like, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what's going on, and he would always be like, just unwrap, just go to a meeting and pick up a new sponsee, or go do this, and just like, really run my ass.
The lady behind you, she's hot.
I started to pray, into that second and third step, and that was different. I always felt like, God didn't love me. I could never live up to it, and the prayer is something I still do to this day. That's the first thing I do when I wake up. I just pray. I take time to listen to a spiritual message, and I turn it over, and I reach out to a few people in the program still, and I read the meditation, and it's all this stuff, I still have to do. That's just part of my daily maintenance. And that was the big thing I picked up as a newcomer. It's like, my sponsor at the time, he's like, here's a list of things, you have to do so many of them each day, and part of it was like going to a meeting or praying, and he had me journaling, and which it just seemed real silly, like something a little girl would do, like my diary or something. But after about a couple of years, we looked back on it, and we started reading, and it was like, man, you really got an anger problem. Every day is like, fuck this, and fuck you, and fuck everybody, and it's like, wow. People would ask me if I had an anger problem, I'd be like, no, I don't have an anger problem. Anyways, I've had several different sponsors. I've had like 3 die, and they're all good people, but they all ask the same question. They all ask me that one question: do you have the willingness to go to any lengths? And that's what I ask when people ask me to sponsor them. I was like, yeah, I do. I was so beat down. It's like whatever, man. Whatever it takes. So I went to the meetings and worked the steps, and I've stayed clean. So now I try to give back. It's not about me anymore. It's about trying to help the next person and carry the message. And the message is hope. The message is freedom. The message is you never have to fucking use again. I had a long list of reasons why I used, from all the way from severe mental illness to all this bad shit happening to, just I got rid of those reservations. You know, there's nothing. It doesn't matter. You know, if somebody, the closest person to me dies, or I lose a fucking arm, or, you know, I don't want to do none of that shit. I mean, I don't need to say that, but, you know, there's not a reason to use anymore. It's just, there's not, and that's a fucking miracle, and I'm just grateful. But, yeah, thanks for letting me share, but we're just opening it up. People can share about whatever you want on the Newcomer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
My name's Kermit, I'm an addict.
Hey, Kermit.
Clean today through grace of God, Narcotics Anonymous. I don't want to forget that. My sponsor was, before he was my sponsor, of course, it was at the after meeting at Danny's, you know, and he's marching up and down. He can't even sit still, right? And he's pacing back. This guy grabbed him and said, Michael, will you sit down? He sits down. I got some good news and some bad news. Michael thought, oh, I hate this shit. Okay, what is it? So the good news is you never have to use it again the rest of your life, one day at a time. And Michael had this big money business. He had a ton of money, but he was strung out on heroin. He couldn't get off. And he thought, God, if I could just do that, well, what's the bad news? He said, the bad news is drugs aren't your problem. Drugs were my solution. My solution became my problem. You know, because it says in the literature, we thought we needed something different, and we thought we had found a drug. That told me I had a lacking before I got here. This is the 40th anniversary of the rough draft of the basic text, which was written across the street from here. What a miracle. These guys prayed every time they wrote this shit, right? Every time they got in committee, they prayed. This book's been translated into somewhat 25, 30 languages. Everywhere it goes around the world, addicts get and stay clean. That's a fucking miracle. That's a hell of a book, right? So when they're writing the book, they said, you know, well, AA has these promises. They have, you know, 12, you know, we will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. Yeah. So they thought, you know, they talked about it for hours, you know, we're going to come up with he said, we're dealing with dope fiends, you know. Yeah. If we don't come up with the goods, you know, they're going to say, fuck all this shit and not even read it. So they only came up with one promise. Freedom from active addiction, the solution to which has eluded us for so long. We will be freed from our self-made prisons. And going to AA for several years before, you know, there was enough in it to make 99. No. But I always read that as powerless over drugs, powerless over drugs. For years, I would look at the first step and say powerless. It doesn't say that. It says powerless over our addiction. And if they promise you powerless, the freedom over active drug addiction, that's a huge promise, right? But when we talk about addiction as obsession, compulsion, self-centeredness that affects every area of our lives, and Narcotics Anonymous promise you freedom from that, that's a huge promise. That's the promise that I got. You know, like the woman, I'm okay in my own skin. Hello! Fantastic. I'd give anything for that shit. Because my mind talked 24/7 so that anybody that got into like 3 meters of me, I had to act a certain way to make sure they were happy.
Yes. Yes.
That's the full manifestation of my addiction, you know. And, you know, and it gives us freedom from that. I want to tell you my clean time, but it's much more powerful when it comes out Sunday morning. But, you know, it's decades. Lots of them. Pinch me, I couldn't get it. Oh, God. I relapsed over and over again, you know, and I'm a strong believer in being done. I was done. This guy, my first sponsor, is like, it's your thinking that's messed up. I said, how much am I thinking, Al? He says, we usually start with all of it. If there's any good, we'll let you know. He said, I'll tell you, the one thing that got you into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, the one thing, if it doesn't change, will keep you from getting everything that God has intended for his children. I said, that is, when you know, you'll never know. But when you begin to understand that you don't understand, then you'll have understanding. And when you stop trying to understand, then you'll enjoy yourself. I said, I've been listening to weeks. I don't understand a word. He said, that's it. Don't you ever forget. Hell, you're crazy. He said, I know. He said, it's never them. It's never her. It's never God. It's never the situation. It's you that has to become different. You have to become more different than you've ever been. I said, how do I do that? He said, oh, you can't. I said, what the hell are you telling me? That's what's gonna happen to you. Thanks for looking at you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kermit.
Kermit.
I'm Sonia, I'm an addict.
Hey,
Hey, Sonia.
When I first came into the rooms, like, I mean, I've been in and out of these rooms since I was 15, but it never really stuck, you know? And like Kermit was saying, like, I was done. You know, and then I was clean for 5 months, and then I had to go do some more research, like a fucking idiot. Right? Luckily it was only for 1 day, because y'all got my head and shit, and I couldn't even enjoy that shit. I was pissed the fuck off. Tried all day to enjoy that shit, and I couldn't. You know what I mean? So, and then I felt so damn guilty. I went back to my sober living house. I done told on myself, right? Because I felt so fucked up, you know. And I just wanted that freedom, you know, and stuff. And then they were gonna kick me out for 3 days, and then, you know, because I'm a master manipulator, so I manipulated my way. And fuck that, let me stay, because I ain't got nowhere else to fucking go, you know. And I just manipulated them into letting me stay. You know, and this program has done so much for me and in my life that words can't even describe how grateful I am to this program. You know, because like other addicts, you know, when I came in here, I was fucking broken. You know, like Jesse was saying, I was spiritually broken. I was, you know, I don't know, maybe 160 pounds. You know what I mean? And I'm 6'2", y'all, so that's like anorexia and shit, right? You know, and just, I couldn't even think right, like I was hearing voices and shit. You know, and I heard voices for almost a year, okay? And then, man, the day they fucking went away, I was like, oh, thank Jesus, right? Because they were 24/7, you know, just talking shit to me, you know what I mean? And I dealt with that for years because I was doing so much meth, you know? And, but I thought, you know, I thought meth was the fucking answer because I didn't want to feel, you know, nothing. You know what I mean? I didn't want to feel anything. And so, when I got in here, like, this program, like, loved me until I could love myself, you know? And then I started then I started loving myself. And then I started sticking up for myself. You know what I mean? And not being a fucking people pleaser, right? Because this program taught me I don't have to be like that anymore. You know, I don't have to try to fit in. I don't have to try to be what you want me to be. I could be who I want to be, you know? And so, and I was scared when I first came, even though I've been in and out, like, you know, each time I was in, though, it got longer. Like, the first time I came in, I don't know, I think it was maybe 3 weeks. You know, I was like, fuck, I'm not like them, right? Because I was 15, right? Like, I'm not a fucking addict, you know? I can control this shit, right? And then a couple years later, like, I went back again, and then, you know, I stayed for a couple weeks this time, you know what I mean? And then I went back out, and I came back in again, and I stayed for a month, you know what I mean? And then it just progressively got longer and longer, and this time it fucking got longer. And my clean date is June 26, 2016, and by the grace of God, I'm gonna keep that shit, right? Because I don't have another run in me. You know what I mean? Because I was in love with that drug, in love with it, right? And I already have anxiety disorder. Hello, right? Let's do some fucking meth, you know? Because then that's where the fucking alcoholism came in, because I get too fucking high and I have to calm myself down, right? So I mean, you know, this program has just taught me, you know, it taught me how to live better, and it taught me how to deal with the feelings I was having, right? Instead of having to use to cover that shit up because I didn't want to feel that shit, right? You know, and today I have a good sponsor, and you know, and I can call him up anytime I fucking want to, and he'll answer the phone, you know, and I just love it, like, you know, especially being here. Like, I'm from California, y'all, and California sucks ass. Okay, they do. Like, seriously, like, I didn't even complete the 12 steps all the way, okay, until, I don't know, 4.5 years, right, for the very first time. All 12 steps, right? I don't recommend that to anyone. But it's because I came complacent, you know, and I was happy where I was, right? Because I hate to read, right? Like even in fucking college, right? I would just be like, just try to, you know, read the question, find the answer, you know, because I don't like to read, and part of it, I don't like to read because I can't retain a lot of stuff. But anyway, you know, I'm just rambling. Anyway, I'm Sonia, I'm an addict.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sonia.
Sonia.
I'm Cindy, I'm an addict.
Hey,
Hey,
Cindy.
everybody. You know, I was in here before, but anyway, when I came back this time, I came into a meeting and I was physically sick, and I had the craving for drugs that was so intense. I sat in that meeting and I thought, I ain't gonna make it, because the craving was so strong. So the next day, I went back to another meeting and I sat there and I had the craving for drugs, and that craving is like a monster. It's like, you know, the kind of thing where I'll chop your head off and jump over you to get to the next one. So I came back again, and I came back again, and I still had the craving, and I just kept coming back and coming back. And then one day I'm sitting there and I was like, it's gone. It's gone. And it's been gone ever since. I mean, I have thoughts and stuff, but for me, that was a miracle to have that obsession removed, because without that, I'm free. I can do whatever I want to do with my life within reason. But it was just a result. I wasn't talking to anybody. I didn't feel like talking to anybody. You know, I did not feel good physically. I felt like shit.
Yeah.
And but I just kept coming back and sitting there and listening, and coming back and sitting there and listening. And like I said, once I realized that obsession was gone, it was like being set free like a bird. And that's what I have to do. I have freedom from that obsession and compulsion to use drugs. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy.
I'm Dustin Maddox. I'm gonna share with y'all how my God works. I guess it's crazy. Like 8 years ago, I had like 3 years clean, and I got the bright idea I was gonna work in treatment. You know, I was like, that's gonna be great. Yeah, and it was rough, and I was really struggling adjusting to it, and not bringing home their shit, and being able to stay focused on working on me, and I was working with 18 to 25-year-olds, so it hurt when they would die. You know, like it was horrible, and people got, you got better at it over time, and if you ever stop caring about that, you should definitely go work somewhere else. But I cared a little too much at first, and so like some days I'd come home and I'd just be like emotionally and spiritually just drained. And one thing I always started doing is I'd go in my room, turn the lights off, and I had that little NA speaker app, and I'd just play random speakers and just lay there. Sometimes I'd fall asleep and take a nap, and sometimes I'd just listen to it and then get up and go about my day. But there was one speaker I'd always hear that like it fed me, it made me, it helped when I was struggling. So I started listening to that one more often than the others, and I decided I made a decision to use after 7 years, and the 4 years since then it's just been a battle. It's been a struggle, and there's been like 3 months here, 6 months, 10 months. Never made it back to 12 again. But the last 4 years I've been clean more than I've been using, but there's a lot of using mixed in with it as well. And all them times clean, I still, when I'd be struggling, I'd go back to that speaker tape and listen to it. And like 2 months ago, I hit a bottom like I'd never hit in my life, and I was miserable, and I lost hope. I'd go to meetings and call people, and it felt like it wasn't doing nothing for me. It's because I wasn't there yet. But like 2 months ago, I'm sleeping in my car at Walmart, and I'm pretty much giving up on everything. I'm like pulling out covers and shit, but the only reason I did that is so they would know I wasn't overdosed, because people kept calling the cops because they thought I was overdosing in the Walmart parking lot. And so I was like, even though I was using it at the time, I pulled out my phone, pulled up that speaker, and listened to it while I was laying there going to sleep in my car at Walmart. And of course the speaker's not gonna get me clean. I kept using, but that was literally like 2 months ago. And so I moved from Knoxville to Jackson, and I found out about this convention, and I love stuff like this, but for some reason, it's like I was looking for every excuse not to come. At first, it's like, I gotta work, you know, and then my boss was like, well, since it's the day after Thanksgiving, it's optional, you know, you can work if you want to. And then I'm like, you know, they clearly got work, so they need me. It's like, I'm new at this job, I don't know what I'm doing, they don't need me, I'm no help. And then so it's like, well, I need the money, and like this and that. And then I finally said I was gonna come, and then I woke up this morning, I did not want to get up. I was like, maybe I just won't go and sleep in, and then, oh my God, Danny would not stop waking me up. So I finally got up, came here, and you know, as soon as I come in here, I don't know anybody, but you know, I know I'm with my people, and I'm comfortable, and I'm happy to be here. But I come in to here, and I'm sitting here, like joking with the people next to me about how close we are together, and I look down, and it's Kermit. It's the guy, it's the speaker I've been listening to all these years. That's crazy. Like, I about to start crying when I realized it. I was like, are you the dude from the app? You know, that celebrity. I've been listening to him for so long. And the last time I listened to him was 2 months ago, and I got like 50 days clean today.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Dang.
Thank you.
My name is Andre. I'm an addict.
Hey, Andre.
Tell you how good my God is. I come from alcoholics and straight addicts. That's what my family life was from birth. My father had been out the way when I was a kid. I was probably like 3 to 31 years. My mama didn't want to have nothing with me. My grandma raised me. So throughout them years, I was going through all types of stuff. I seen a lot of alcoholics. There were a lot of addicts. And I started picking up using. Never feel quite at the age of 15. So, my life got me. And it's so weird because as I kept progressing, I kept having way more trauma. And I lost my cousin when I got out of prison at 17. And he died in my arms. And I ended up being charged because I was trying to see where he was shot at. And they charged me with tamper with evidence because I was moving the body around. So I was in there, I was like, man, this is going crazy. And then I had a fiance. With that, in about 16 months, she got killed. So when I got out, I started using even heavier. And I just kept praying. And a person told me before, he like, be careful what you pray for. I was like, man, I need peace, man. I just want some freedom. And I kept telling my brother before I ended up getting locked up again. And I just want to go somewhere and enjoy myself. And I ended up getting locked up. And it's strange, because I got 21 months right now.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
this month I
Nice.
have 22. And I've never been so free in my life. And it's crazy because the freedom I was asking for was kicking it at the beach. You know, just to get away from my environment. And it's strange how God worked, you know, because he took the desire out of me. And I was like, what am I going to do? So when it came to me to take a plea, I told my lawyer, I was like, man, I need to get into rehab. He was like, nah, don't take the rehab. I'm like, yeah, I need to get into rehab. And I was like, yeah, the judge can give it to you. So we argued for about 4 months about it. And then finally, he was like, they ain't gonna give it to you, but this is what I do. I'll get you to sign this plea, and I'll do it for you behind your back. And I end up getting the plea, and he ended up making a miracle happen. And Asphalt been such a blessing for me, because I was already dry, and it just helped me. It motivated me and gave me the foundation that I need to stand on. You know what I'm saying? Because I was missing parts. You I knew I couldn't do it myself. This is my third time in treatment. And I was just like her first 2 couple of years. I didn't want no sponsor. I worked everything I had to do in it just to get out of there. And you know, this time I knew it. This is a life-death situation. You know what I'm saying? And I lost my niece. I lost my grandma. I lost my older sister, my auntie, my great auntie, all the time. So I felt this last week. And right before I got to ask for my niece to get killed like 4 days before that. So it was kind of rough. And the love from this group is what kept my sobriety. What kept me strong. The people just listening to them. You know, this is my first time ever coming to one of these. And I love it. Man, the energy in here is so live. You know, I feel like I'm at home. And normally I wouldn't speak out and half of the meetings in the group. And people like, you got a lot to say. You got a lot of knowledge on it. Why you don't speak out? You know, I was nervous. You know, and now I'm starting to find myself. I got a great sponsor. I love it. I work with him. He found his watch shield, so you know. But he's a great guy. You know, he keep me all the time ahead in the books. He makes sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. He makes sure that I'm proud. He's very concerned about that. And just that love right there that I was missing. You know, because I never had that except for my grandma. She gone. And it's only that support I really just had. And I'm just grateful to it.
Glad you're here, Yonder.
Hello, my name's Scott.
Hey,
Scott.
For the newcomer, you know, I was sitting here thinking earlier, you know, I can remember when I was out there doing the deal in the late 80s and the early 90s, and we were doing it, and there was all these kids that were running around, these little young kids, and I could remember people saying, oh, they're too young, they won't remember nothing. They don't know what we're doing. Well, later in life, down the line in my professional career, I ended up over this recovery court that's outside of Narcotics Anonymous. And when I took that over, it was full of those kids that were too young to remember anything. So, you know, they weren't. Kids remember a lot more than you think. And what I'm getting at is, you know, our responsibility as members of Narcotics Anonymous is to provide an atmosphere of recovery. And that, and we gotta remember that attraction is rather over promotion. You know, when these guys come in, I was a newcomer, and like somebody said a while ago, mine was different. Because I stayed a couple of years the first time, and the next 27 times it got shorter and shorter and shorter. But, you know, the newcomers, they come in the door and they watch us. And like those little kids, they remember. Yeah. You know, they remember what we do and what we say. That's why I always share, like, there are some people that are convention speakers. There are some people that are sponsorship material. But some people's job is just to be in that seat. And then that newcomer comes in time after time after time, they see that same person there. You know, that's a message in itself. So I think for the newcomer, what we have to remember is, you know, we're setting the pace. You know, that's the future of Narcotics Anonymous. Just like with those little kids. That was the future of the meth cooks in Hardin County, Tennessee.
Right.
You know, the young guys and younger ladies that come into Narcotics Anonymous, that's our future. You know, we're not going to be here forever. But I don't know. This is just it's been a good topic. I hate I had to get up and step out, but it was not a peaceful time. There's a 23-year-old in a different county that they just called the family in on. You know, because of this. You know, because of this. Anyway, I'm at it next Scott right there.
Thank you,
Scott.
Bart, I'm at it.
Hey,
Bart.
You know, I was wondering if the atmosphere of recovery was going to come up in here. I've been sitting here listening to everybody, and I remember when I first walked into a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, the feeling that was in the air. You know, I could feel that love. And when people started walking up and hugging me, you know, I was kind of defensive at first, you know, and no man hugging on me. But hell, you know, I've grown to love that shit now, you know, and a lot of times I go to a meeting because I need a damn hug. And I remember when I first started in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and I became comfortable, I knew that they was gonna hug me when I walked in there. And a lot of days I'd walk in there and I'd be expecting that hug because, you know, at that time, that was enough for me, you know, just to know that somebody else cared enough to come over there and hug me. And sitting in there and receiving that atmosphere of recovery was something that I'd never felt before, because the people that I run around with, you know, we didn't care about each other. We just want to know what you had and what you could get. And it was a whole different feeling for me. And I realized right off the bat that was something that I'd been searching for a long damn time. It was a group of people that's trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do, that really cares what goes on in my life, you know. And I won't never forget that feeling. And that was one of the reasons, probably for the first 6 months that I made as many meetings as I did, is because I really needed that at the time. I'd felt left out and alone for so long. And once I come in the rooms, I remember an old fart like me was sitting over there, and he said, "Never alone, never again. We don't have to do this shit by ourselves no more." And that shit stuck with me, man. And thanks to my predecessors in Narcotics Anonymous, you know, I can come in there like what was shared earlier and sit in those meetings, and the newcomers that come in there, you know, they see the same people coming and sitting there and hugging them, and, you know, letting them know that they're not alone anymore. And that makes a big difference in people's lives. You know, we don't think about that shit a lot. Like what we shared about, we get comfortable and we come into meetings and we gather up over there with all the same people that we see time and time again in there, and we don't realize that there's a newcomer sitting over there that just needs a damn hug and needs to know that somebody else, you know, we care, and we've been where you're at, and we found a way out. So come with us and do what we do. So I'm grateful for Narcotics Anonymous. I'm sure grateful for this convention this weekend, because I was needing a boost. That's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank
you so much, Mark.
I'm not even an addict. If you're new and you don't have a sponsor, please don't be afraid to ask someone to sponsor you.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And if you've been around a while, don't be scared to ask people to become sponsees, because I see it all the time. It's like, you know, I used to ask people, "Do you have a sponsor? Do you have a sponsor?" Now it's like, how many people do you sponsor? You know, I call people out. I don't really sponsor people, or I don't have time, or yeah, maybe 1 or 2. I'm like, no. I said, if you want to keep this thing, get some sponsors. Well, nobody ever asked me. I said, well, I don't care. See that guy over there? Go tell him you're going to be a temporary sponsor and just get going, you know. But on the lighter side, can I ask a question to the panel? Is that all right?
Sure.
So my sponsor said, if I ever slept with a newcomer, he'd fire me. So when is a person no longer a newcomer?
Well,
after a year.
You never heard that?
Our literature doesn't say that.
well, I'm at it named Jesse. You know, like I said earlier, it talks about 90 and 90 in the basic text, but if you ask some other people, they say at 5 years. That's when you hear that pop. That's when your head finally pops out of your ass. So, I don't know. I guess you get a different answer depending on how many different people you ask.
I'm Tracy. I'm an addict.
Hey, Tracy.
Look, it was told to me to wait a year, and I did wait that year, and then I tried to date somebody, and it was a shit show. So I say no. No. I'm just gonna remain celibate.
I'm mad at Scott.
Hey, Scott.
I don't know. But, you know, everything that's been shared. I was told that year thing, which that ain't in the literature, that's the treatment center shit.
Okay.
But I did it. Well, actually, I did 11 months, 29 days, ironically speaking. Then I got in a relationship with somebody that had 6 years in recovery. About a year later, I realized I wasn't ready to be in a relationship. But yet I was invested. So, I guess what I'm getting at is not always the newcomer that gets screwed over.
Right.
So, but once I done what I did and broke that off, then it was like I just had this conversation in the parking lot. It was like every female that I went out to dinner with, I was trying to build this relationship, blah, 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 blah. And then one day I was on my way to a meeting, me and my buddy, and I looked at him and I was talking to God, and I just said, you know, what the hell with this? I'm going back to whoring like I was doing the first year. Things were so much better. Then I walked into a meeting and I met a woman that was 93 days, and we've been together for 10 years. So I think the answer is, I don't know when somebody's not a newcomer, but I know when I threw my hands up and said, I can't do it, then God put the relationship in my path that was supposed to be there. So I don't know. Pray on newcomers? No, I don't suggest it. Because I've got a sponsee brother with a bunch of decades in recovery. He's been married and divorced 6 times in recovery. And his philosophy is, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, if that girl was 60 days, is she going to have a better chance in recovery messing with another guy with 60 days or messing with somebody with 25 years? She's probably got a better chance. The guy with 25 years is probably one that's going to suffer the damn consequences. So, ask 100 people, get 100 different answers. Glad to be here.
Glad to hear, Scott.
My name's Kerwin Lonetti.
Hey, Carmen.
And I had this, one of my sponsors, I've buried 5 sponsors, and my sponsor, Greg Pierce, like you used the last name, deceased. He wrote the whole tradition after your basic text. He wrote the triangle of self-obsession. He said he was self-obsessed one day and wrote the death pamphlet with it. Nice. And I said to him, you know, I got like 25, 6 sponsees. Most of my sponsees have like a decade or more, so it's not like newcomers. I said, Greg, how many sponsees should you have? And he got real quiet and he said, well, Jesus only had 12 disciples. Oh, Greg. I asked people, what's the opposite of love? And they usually yell out hate. I said, no, they're both strong emotions. The opposite of love is indifference. When we're too busy talking with somebody else about area of shit or whatever, and the newcomer's standing there at the rack, if they're at the rack, there's only 2 possibilities. They're either a newcomer or they're from out of town, and they both need attention. You know, and that's what we give to people here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron.
My name's Kim. I'm an addict.
Hey, Kim.
And I'd like to say that you know, I tried a whole lot of different things to get clean, all the, you know, the formulas, and none of them were magic. And at one time, I was working 3 different programs. Y'all hear me? I was working 3 different programs, and still didn't get and stay clean. And I realized when I did get clean, it was because I would pick and choose the parts of the program that were convenient, that fit me, etc., etc. And one day I came to the realization, you know, Narcotics Anonymous gave me a proven recipe for recovery. Now, if I decide I'm gonna make a cake from scratch, first of all, I gotta look up a recipe. I gotta ask for help. Second of all, I have to look at that and follow it. If I decide, you know what, sugar is all the way across the kitchen, I'm not traveling that far to get that sugar. And eggs, oh my God, what if I make a mistake and get a shell in it? I can't make no mistakes. And flour, that's just too inconvenient. Every time you pull out a bag of flour, it just gets everywhere, so I ain't using that either. My cake is gonna be flat, just like my recovery will be flat if I don't follow the proven recipe for recovery. And a lot of times we come in here not open-minded.
Yeah.
Bull crap. Every time somebody told you they had a way for you to get more high or a way to get some money to get high, we was listening.
Yeah.
And the willingness, daggum, I was like, okay, I was willing.
Yeah.
And the honesty part, if it was gonna get me some street cred, I was honest with you with everything I had done wrong. And those are the foundations. So our addiction has given us the basic tools to get a foundation in recovery. We just gotta get up every morning and decide, which direction do I wanna head with these skills?
Right.
Do I wanna go to destruction or construction? And that's all it boils down to, because we got it. You can't tell an addict they can't do something.
That's right.
We'll do it twice. That's it.
Love
Thanks,
that.
Gail.
Glad you're here, Kim.
Thank you.
Why is everybody looking at me? Because you do the work.
Because you're the chairperson.
Oh, we still got some time. We still have time for a few more shares if anyone wants to share.
Looks like crew consciousness stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Name's Glenn, I'm an addict.
Thank you.
Hey, Glenn.
Like silence. So, you know, whether you knew or whether you've been around a while, if you're struggling, put your hand up and let people know what's going on with you, right? I was told when I got here, a closed mouth can't get fed. I listened to that story about two people sitting next to each other in this room right here, right now, and it melted my heart. That's what we do in here. We learn how to build relationships in here. I try to take what I learned in here and practice this out in my life, and I fail miserably all the time, so I come back for another meeting. You know, the question of when is a newcomer not a newcomer? What's your motive, man? Right? Because that's what my spouse would be asking me. What's your motive, Glenn? You know, and if I'm honest with him, he's gonna say, yeah, why don't you leave that person alone? You know, my disease doesn't just come at me and say, hey, let's go down to the crack man.
Yeah.
You know, my disease comes at me and says, oh, she's pretty hot. My disease comes at me and says, oh yeah, go buy that. You don't have the money for it, but you just put it on credit, you can do that. My disease comes at me in so many different ways. When I walked into the fellowship and the first step read that I was powerless over my disease, I knew I was home. I can share that anyway. You know, if I share it the right way. Again, what's my motive for sharing that? You know, what's my motive for sharing that? You know, I struggle with certain things. Am I looking for somebody to react to that? My sponsor had to point that out to me, right? I don't see my own self coming most of the time. I'm getting better at it. But I have people in the support group that'll put their foot firmly in my ass and tell me, dude, you're not behaving right. You know, and so this fellowship is amazing, man. The gifts that we give each other in here. You know, there's nothing like it in the world, man. I tried stopping using a million times, a million different ways. And nothing worked for me until I got into here and became open-minded and surrendered to the fact that I got a disease. And surrendered to the fact that this program works for millions of other people that I
I need to maybe give it a try. You know, and you know, my sponsor told me, he goes, you know, it's a simple program, but you just have to change one thing. And I was like, yeah, what's that? He goes, but it's a process, you know, it's a process it's a journey I want to be on the rest of my life. I'm never going to get perfect, but I just try to keep walking in that direction. You're talking, am I part of the solution today, or am I part of the problem? Right? And a lot of times, even with some clean time, going through shit, I become part of the problem really quick. You know, because I got a disease that tells me that if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't love me. I got a disease that tells me that, like, you'll never be worth nothing. I got a disease that tells me that, like, you know, no matter what, you're never going to be good enough, Glenn. And I like to talk to my disease, man, because it lives right up here in my head, right? I like to tell, thanks for sharing, shut the fuck up, sit in the back of my head. If I want to get high, I'll come find you. But I don't always know it's my disease talking.
That's for sure.
You know, some of these people come in here, oh, my disease is outside doing push-ups. My disease could be sitting here right now sharing for me. Right? What's my motive? You know, when I'm talking in a meeting, that's easy. How am I living? Right? We had this guy, room temperature Fred, up in New York. He was a trip. He was an elderly black man when I got into the rooms. He had 14 years clean prior. He thought he was Nicky Barnes, and if you're not old enough, that was one of the big drug lords around, right? He thought he could, with 14 years clean, he thought he could buy dope, sell dope, and make a lot of money. And it took him like 8 years to get back after he relapsed. And he always used to say, Glenn, if you keep on living the way you were living when you were using, eventually you're going to have to use to make sense out of the way you're living. This program, you know, I'm here to find a new way to live. Right? And my disease don't want that. My disease is going to fight that tooth and nail every day. We have an incurable disease that can be arrested a day at a time and recover then possible. Right? So, you know, I just, I question, if I have to question when is the right time on somebody in his fellowship, I gotta question what my motive is before I even ask that question, you know. So let people recover in here, man. Like, if it's meant to happen, it will. I believe that. Gentlemen Lee. I know another couple of 30 years clean in New York, and they met in rehab, and they've been married for 30 years, man. So who am I to tell you you need to wait a year, right? So. Again, you know, it's a hard question, but you need to be honest with yourself. Truthful to myself is what I need to be. You know, so anyway, that's what we share.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Glad you're here, brother.
I'm Dusty, man.
Dustin.
Just real quick, I was gonna say, whenever the first time I was a newcomer, I was sleeping with newcomers. And the next thing you know, I have like 5 years and I'm still sleeping with newcomers. And my sponsor gave me an assignment. He told me to write down every girl that I slept with in those 5 years. He was like, really sit and think and rack your brain and try to remember every one and make a list. So I did that. And it was a hell of a list, and I felt ashamed of the number on the list. I thought that was the point. And so I called him and was like, I'm done with my list. And he told me, he said, pull out your highlighter and highlight every one that's not around anymore. And that changed everything for me. We never spoke of the list again. We never talked about me sleeping with newcomers again. that fucked me up. You know, there's a lot of names that got highlighted on that list. And it's something I never sat and thought about until I sat and looked at it. You know. And for me right now, it's like, I don't catch feelings too easy. I don't get caught up too easy. But I need to take a year, not for me, it's for the other people I'm going to harm along the way if I don't. Because I've done it a lot of times before. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Andy, I'm an addict.
Hey, Andy.
Thank God for one more day to leave.
Come on.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation with my sponsor, you know, really, cause I've kinda got a sponsor in Jackson, Tennessee, and I've got a sponsor here, and, you know, it's like one of them telling me one thing, one of them telling me another, and, my sponsor says, he said, well, he said, that year deal, he said, that's not for you, man. He said, you need to find some happiness in your life. And, but he did tell me, you know, that I needed to be strong enough, you know, to stay sober if she relapses, not to go with her. And vice versa. What if I don't like her at the end? Am I going to be strong enough to accept the consequences of her stalking me and won't leave me alone? That's just something to think about, you know. So, you know, it's been almost a year for me anyway, so I'm just in that, you know, I think that's good sense what I just said. But who knows? I'm crazy. You know, that's just where I'm at. You know, I thought I'd speak up and share that. It's good to be clean today.
Thanks, Andy.
Glad you're here.
Hi, I'm Dell. I'm an addict.
Hey,
Hey,
Dell.
Dell.
I'm a newcomer myself. I've only got 10 months and 5 days today. I never thought I'd be sitting in a convention, let alone in an NA room. But in my using, I was crying out to God while I was getting high. Can you imagine that? God, please, please take this desire away from me. And then 2 minutes later, I'm picking up and getting high.
Yes.
And crying while I'm holding it in my hand.
Me too.
God, help me get out of this. Why won't you just fix this? He fixed it. He fixed it for 18 months of me. He took me to jail for 18 months. And all I kept crying about was, I didn't do nothing this time. I didn't do nothing this time. I didn't do nothing this time. I only left the scene of the fight because I had drugs on me. I didn't do anything this time. And after about 4 months of me wallowing in that self-pity in jail, it hit me this time. But what about all those drug transactions you made? Meeting your dealer here and there. You could have gone to jail for a long time for the amount you was buying. You know, I was like, damn. What about all the stuff you did that you should have went to jail for and you didn't go to jail for? Because we do crazy stuff when we're out there. And I had to humble myself. I said, well, I did ask you to take this out of my life, get it out of my life. I didn't preference how. Not that he's going to do it our way anyway. But he put me there for 18 months. And of course, we was doing alcoholic AA in jail. And we didn't have anybody come from NA. And well, I was like, well, alcohol's never been my problem. So when I got out of jail this year, January, my family, you know, got together to do a little dinner for me and stuff. And I had my sister brought some liquor. And it took me about 5-6 shots. And I was like, whoa. Something, my disease flaring up back here. Go get you one more. It's been 18 months. You can handle it now. You can control it again now. And I adopted my nieces and nephews for my sister because she was in active addiction and lost them to the state. My mama went and got them, and then when my mama got sick, I took them from then. And so my niece, her son, her kids called me Nani. And I was like calling my sister after I got my adopted daughter to let me borrow her car. I was gonna go get that one because my brain told me I could do it. But when I was calling my sister to ask her to babysit the kids, my grandson pulled on my arm and said, "Nani, you're gonna make us go over to Aunt Dorothy's house? we don't get to play over there. I don't want to go over there. I want to go with you, Nani. And that broke my heart. That I was choosing drugs over them. I didn't go. I went, instead I took them to Walmart and got them some toys and shopped around a little in there and came back home. So, I didn't realize until after I got in the rooms that I had broke my clean time. Not recovery, my clean time. Because alcohol is a drug. It's just liquid dope. That's all. Mm-hmm. So I had to restart my clean date over. So 1/21/21 is my clean date. And I've been busting my butt for my recovery because my sponsor, she told me before she was my sponsor, she said, Della, now you got to chase your recovery like you chased that dope. Yes. All that time, effort, and all the stuff you did to get that drug, to get what you wanted to get, you got to do that. Apply that same energy and thought and desire and all that into your recovery. So I hit the ground running. I bought every NA book it was. Now I got every NA book it is except for the sponsorship book. And she said, "Well, I didn't mean for you to do that." She was like, "Don't start working in those until you get a sponsor." And she has her and her husband have a rule. They usually don't sponsor. They'll sponsor you before. They won't work steps with you until you're 90 days in. But they also don't let you come over to their house till you're 90 days clean. They want to make sure you're not, over there for the wrong reasons. But I got to my 89th day, and I asked my sponsor, could I ask her a personal question? When we was leaving the meeting, we had another person in the car with us. And I didn't want to ask why they were in the car. Because if she tells me no, I don't want to be embarrassed in front of somebody else. And when I asked her, I was like, will you be my sponsor? And I just turned my face away from her and I don't know why I thought my hand was going to shield my feelings or something. But she was excited that I asked her to be my sponsor. And but she had also given me suggestions. Before you choose a sponsor, make sure they're working the program. Make sure they're applying the spiritual principles in their lives each day. But you have to know that everybody makes mistakes and we act out on our character defects. But do we do right by them once we realize what we've done? Yeah. And that stuck out to me a lot. And that's why I chose her. Because she was such a loving person, such a compassionate person. But she's serious about recovery. She has me doing all kind of crazy stuff. Like I gotta call her every single day. I gotta tell her what I've been dishonest about, and if I was powerless, and like all kind of crazy stuff. Each week is a different thing I gotta tell her about. So I'm like, dang, well, I'm gonna know my whole life before this year's out, isn't she?
That's the point.
Yep.
But what stuck out to me the most the first day I walked into the meetings is they didn't care what I'd use, where I'd been, where I come from. What they care about is what I wanted to do right then and there. And if I had the desire and the want to leave that life and start a new life. And if I would come to the meetings, if I was late getting to a meeting, they'd be texting me, Della, where you at? Are you okay? Need a ride? And now I'm known as Della the ride needer. Because I call everybody and ask for a ride. I don't care. She told me chase my recovery like I chase my drugs, and I'm doing it. I was put on the spot for this position, just right out of the blue. Will you do a chair? Sure. I mean, if you can't do service work and you can't chase your recovery like you did those drugs, maybe you need to reevaluate your life. And I'm talking about reevaluate it quickly, because this disease doesn't care who it takes out or how bad it is. But thanks for listening. That's all I got.
Thank you, Della.
Glad you're here.
Wow, I talked all over you.
Thank you.
Well, let us thank our speakers one more time, everybody. I've asked someone to read We Do Recover.
I'm Sonia, I'm an addict.
Hey, Sonia.
And at the end of the road, we can find that we can no longer function as a human being, either with or without drugs. We all face the same dilemma.
What is there left to do, Sonia?
I'll tell you, there seems to be this alternative. Either go on the best we can to the bitter ends, jail executions, and death, or find a new way to live.
That's the one.
In years gone by, very few addicts ever had this last choice. Those who are addicted today are more fortunate. For the first